All right, Javier, tonight, Smackdown, 24 hours, less than 24 hours now, before Backlash closed with another John Cena promo, kind of a response to Randy Orton, a pretty harsh promo last week. Cena had a pretty harsh promo this week. I don't think the focus of the promo made me think Randy Orton's going to win, but I do think Cena's selling point was that created a sense of a threat to what Randy stands for, where people are going to want to see Randy deliver more punishment to Cena. We ended up with an RKO at the end of the show, Randy getting one up on Cena. Ultimately, that is probably an indication based on WWE booking that Cena's going to win. In your column, and I brought you on at the top of the show today because I want to preview Backlash in Block A here, and then we'll move on to talking about the non-Backlash stuff on SmackDown later, but especially because the show's it's such a quick turnaround. We want to get into previewing Backlash as soon as possible on the show today. Last week, Randy made it personal. This week, Cena made it personal. This almost feels more like a grudge match between, as Cena said, the two names who define the Attitude Era, not Attitude Era. What's right after it?
Ruthless Aggression.
Ruthless Aggression. Thank you. Yes, who define the Ruthless Aggression era. And it feels more like a special attraction match than necessarily for the world title, even though Randy Orton kissed the belt at the end, which I thought was a good gesture, like in the sense of conveying he wants that world championship. It's not just something off to the side that's secondary. And Cena, of course, saying, I'll be standing as a one true world champion afterwards. So your thoughts on the build and the hype and what they did tonight, and if you think there's any chance, and I know in your preview, which we'll be posting tonight of the full show at PWTorch.com, I know your prediction is, understandably so, Cena winning.
Yeah, and it's most of the card is pretty much self-evident who's going to win for most of them, or what's going to happen, not necessarily who's going to win in some cases. We'll get into
I think there's a little mystery here. I think there's a little mystery in a couple of them. But
yeah, but with this one, it's pretty much obvious. It's Cena. It's basically the goodbye match to what's been a long rivalry between these two, and I think they did enough of a good job for the people who have been really invested in their saga to say, hey, look, we've got this one. Even if you're not like super invested, there's always something sad when it's like this is the last time ever kind of thing. And I think they did enough of that. And I'd be more critical if this were leading to WrestleMania or SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. But for a Backlash, it's a nice, goodbye. I'm not expecting a 5-star match or anything or any of that stuff. It's just a good. I'm expecting them to hit the all the old notes. So that's so it's good enough for what it is.
Sean Plichta in the chat says, and Cena just hasn't been great in this heel role. What do you think of Cena's performance? I'm not as hard on it as some. I mean, I'm not saying it's sort of, to me, it's sort of baked into John Cena. That's the way he talks. It doesn't feel like inauthentic John Cena. It feels like authentically inauthentic John Cena. I'm not surprised that he hasn't shown a whole new range on his promos. There was a comment earlier that it felt rehearsed sounding. And I mean, in a way, but to me, it felt planned. And obviously it was. Like, to me, I'm sorry, but I'll just say a sidebar. Like, a promo should sound rehearsed if it's essentially a speech. And what Cena was doing was giving a speech that, of course, he prepared ahead of time because he wanted to rebut what Randy Orton said about him. It wasn't a back and forth. It's a back and forth that sounds scripted. But, I mean, you want it to sound somewhat extemporaneous or casual in moments, but clearly Cena had an agenda of things he wanted to say. He thought it through, and he said it in a John Cena way. So I'm not, really down on it. I mean, he didn't blow me away, but I thought it was good heel mic work from the John Cena I knew, playing the role of a heel who, I mean, we as Tom Martin talks about, there's such a familiarity with John Cena. It's hard to buy in to this as an authentic John Cena, but I also think he's giving it a good try, and I think the lines he's delivering show a little of that edge of the pre-top star John Cena heel role. So your thoughts, Javier?
I think it's funny because I think this is like real John Cena. He's a fastidious fellow. So, I could totally imagine that if he's going to go and have like a mic battle with somebody, he would already come up with like 100 different variations of the speech he wants to give. Yeah. That's so. I think this is authentic Cena, which is inauthentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's because it's the way that he would be able to carry himself. Yeah, I mean, I don't. The thing is, it's not. I will divide it into three like groups: premium TV, which is kind of like what we're getting with the Bloodline stuff like that; CWTV, which is what we were getting with like the Judgment Day stuff, and this is more like theater. Like he's it's more like a road show kind of like thing, which is what WWE was for a long period of time, particularly the era that they were dealing with, where things feel inauthentic because like you see Frozen on ice is not like watching Frozen on TV. The animated version, there's going to be a divide because you're watching, Disney on ice basically. This is what his promos feel like. So while not, it's not the best, I don't think it's also the worst. So it's kind of like, floating water. The issue I have with it personally and everything he's done as the heel is that there was room with how WWE has grown in their storytelling ability, that this is something that really should have put in the Paul Heyman not theatrical, but premium level stuff. Things that would have been interesting, like, get more story instead of just basically going out there and kind of the same, just like the opposite version of what he used to do. I think it's more of a wasted opportunity. I didn't hate Cena's promos when he was in good programs back in the day, because he was good at he was allowed to get realer than most in terms of what people were talking about. He's still doing it here, but it was never like the top stuff, that you could have gotten to. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I talk sometimes about Bianca Belair. I've seen her talk in other contexts, and it's like there's something more there to tap into than what she has delivered in terms of her promo, which is sort of a derivative of her heel act all these years. And I'm like, she can be a bigger star if she loosens up a bit. Some people have been shocked at Charlotte when she's not in Charlotte TV star, TV main event mode, being the queen, that there's like a person behind that maybe they could tap into and people would relate to it more. Tom Martin has talked about on the Fix Logan Paul, and how Logan at the beginning felt different than a just typical pro wrestling heel promo. And he's kind of morphed into doing a good, but not distinctive heel promo act now. With John Cena, I don't know if he has that in him. Like, when John's on talk shows, this is John Cena. Like, I don't want to get like, it's not even a personal like insult. I'm saying I don't want to be personal, but like, I don't know if John Cena has a mode that doesn't feel sort of put on and performative and, deep voiced and sort of in a role. And I've watched his reality TV series with Nikki. It's just like, I don't think there's a huge difference between on and off camera. He was on camera there and in work mode too, but you know what I mean? Like, usually you see a different side of people. So I just don't know if there's a lot more to get. Like BJF in the chat says, it was a decent promo, nothing mind blowing, but a decent go home heel promo. And it was decent. I think people were hoping to see this breakthrough moment with Cena, and I get that. It depends on your expectations. Standard Deviation said, I was expecting more from Cena than simple heel 101 techniques, such as speaking slowly. How do you feel about the content with Cena, with the crowd insults, your dad's, insulting the kid's dad, your dad's a loser, I'll speak slowly so you can understand me. Like, there are sort of, just not even tropes, just sort of stale cliche heel stuff he's doing. But I think the notion is him doing it feels shocking because he was this embodiment of hustle, loyalty, respect, smiles, Dudley do right for decades. And so just the juxtaposition of him being insulting, I think they just think is enough. I'm not sure they're wrong for the way WWE operates right now. It is a relatively short-term heel run of John Cena being John Cena, but with a scowl and some, other stuff. So yes, I was hoping for more Standard Deviation, but I'm not like crushed by this. It doesn't shock me that he settled into this. Javier.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare him in his promo if you were to give a star rating to the promo, a 3. And it feels like he never really gets above 3 unless he's able to basically point out the foibles that the more analytical minded point out, like when he did, to Reigns, when he goes out there and essentially what they say when they bury him, when they bury the people. And like he had some of those lines tonight with the Randy Orton says he's furniture, he's a lazy boy, and he was calling into, he was basically bringing up, he brought up the failed drug test. He was getting into, some of that behind the scenes stuff that we know about, and like, so he could test, so he could twist the knife kind of thing. It's just that, at this point, like I said, it feels like, part 8 in a television, in a movie series, and you kind of like know what's going to be, there's not going to be any surprise. You know where you're going to get. There's going to be some subversion. Like the Mission Impossible movie is coming out now. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get Tom Cruise running. That's, and at that point you're in for the ride, and it's the last one, and I'm going to tune in because, maybe they might do a little bit something special. That's kind of where I'm with Cena. I mean,
Yeah, John Cena's a movie franchise, and if you expect suddenly Oscar level performances from a series that's meant to be something different and succeeded at being something different, you'll be disappointed, but I don't know that they were aiming for more. And I just don't know if Cena's capable more. I go back to the reality show he did. It just sort of was what it was. Cena's just kind of cardboard personality wise. He's great in movies in a certain role, but it doesn't show the type of range of the great promos, great heel promos in wrestling.
And his best roles is when it seems like he's playing himself up to 11, and he's playing off another person usually to ground the scenes.
Yep.
But Peacemaker, I could totally picture Cena, like, I could see the core of Cena in the character Peacemaker. I could see the core of Cena in a lot of these, some of the love, some of those like romantic comedies. Totally. You could totally believe him because it almost seems like he's parodying himself in the movies that he's done well, and I love them. I love it works. He works one of those kind of movies. The Transformers. He's playing the military guy because he exudes that, but he's also got the little bit of comedic streak. So
it's like Jimmy Fallon on SNL never played anyone but Jimmy Fallon in every skit. Mm-hmm. He's just sort of laughing at jokes and then he just it's him. He doesn't have another side to him. It's like Cena. Even when Cena's playing another role, it's John Cena, like you said, kind of John Cena. Amped up and playing off of someone. Javier, let's pause. I want to talk a little bit more about Orton Cena, but let's introduce the show because we usually do that around this time, and we'll come back and pick up on that. And then the undercard will be probably a little quicker to run through, and we'll go based on your column and predictions in our discussion. This is a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling post show on Friday, May 9th, 2025, following WWE Smackdown on the eve of WWE Backlash, a PLE on Peacock domestically, Netflix internationally. And I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com, and the host of the Wade Keller post shows, thus aptly named. We are live after Raw, Dynamite, and Smackdown. Those are the shows I host, and they're available on the Wade Keller post show feed. Search Wade Keller, see the red logo. When it pops up, subscribe to that for our post shows. Not only includes my post shows after Raw, Dynamite, and Smackdown, but bonus content, flashbacks from 5 and 10 years ago. Also, yesterday, there was a special Thursday episode of Collision. And so we had Brian Zillum hosted that show with Joshua White. They did a post show after that. So subscribe to the podcast feed. There's content that is not available on YouTube. We do those live stream, the live shows on YouTube on the PWTorch channel. So search PWTorch if you have not found us yet on the YouTube side of things, especially if you want to watch us live right after we go live. Tomorrow night, Greg Parks will be hosting Wrestling Night in America after Backlash right here on the PWTorch YouTube channel. That will be available to download as a podcast, but not on the Wade Keller feed because I'm not hosting it. Generally, I'm on the shows that have my name on them. It is on the PWTorch Dailycast feed. And so search PWTorch, subscribe to that free podcast feed, and you'll be able to listen late Saturday night or Sunday and beyond to the post show, which would be a format similar to this, but hosted by longtime Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter columnist and PWTorch podcast host, Greg Parks. Also, our blue logo show is available when you search Wade Keller. It'll pop up. That has our flagship, our weekly flagship. Rich Van joined me this week, and more content. Classic interviews. We're playing interviews from 10 years ago this weekend and last weekend on Vern Gagne looking back at the greatly influential in-ring and behind-the-scenes career of Verne Gagne. If you want to learn some wrestling history, the guests that I had on, including tomorrow, George Shire, the show that I did with George Shire, talking about the funeral and the speeches that were given from Gene Okerlund and Greg Gagne and others is really interesting. So yeah, search Wade Keller, subscribe to both the red logo and the blue logo. Red logo are post shows, blue logo the main podcasts. But we're here tonight to talk SmackDown, and Javier Machado is my guest. He's a PWTorch contributor, a familiar face, obviously a familiar voice for our podcast audience, and a contributor in various ways, including with his WWE PLE previews. And they usually go up on a Friday going into the weekend, and that will be the case late tonight. Just got your submission tonight, Javier, during SmackDown. I always look forward to seeing your predictions and having you point things out that I have not thought of in my previous discussions with people with predictions and thoughts and analysis. So I always look forward to that, and it prepares me well for the PLE. Welcome to the post show.
Always glad to join and help out.
Excellent. So let's get back to Orton and Cena. One thing that we don't talk a lot about here, because I think it's just sort of baked in, is match quality. Is there going to be more chemistry with all the times they've been in the ring with Cena and Orton than Cena and Cody, for instance? Is there hope, because of that familiarity and how many times they have worked a match, that they'll tell a really good story and people be into it, because there is so much history to draw from with both of the characters, but their roles are switched. And this feels like it got even more personal than, I don't know, I'd have to look back, but it seems like it got a little more personal last 2 weeks than even Cena Cody did. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say drew blood, but they did play more into the the issues that like I said, that they've had behind the scenes, and they and what people have been saying. And I particularly liked the stuff that Randy said, because it was an interesting perspective now that the roles are switched. And I think Randy Orton did more job into framing the new version of Cena than Cena's done himself.
What stood out about Randy that you really liked last week?
Mainly, it's just that he went into the whole see, this is kind of what I've been talking about, and it's hard to explain because it's also been a week ago. Fair
enough, yeah. I do that too. I take feelings with me, but not specific sometimes.
Exactly, that was like that was kind of the thing with that. I don't remember specifically like the spots that he hit, but he recontextualized the stuff that Cena did, and poked some holes in the stuff that he said now. Like, I don't totally believe the reasons that you're saying, kind of thing. And I liked, by shining that mirror on himself, with Randy owning the fact that he was a scumbag throughout their entire, role, and almost like saying, like, you like, he was the good guy, but now, like, what's going on? What's up? Like he doesn't really believe it. Kind of like, I would guess, like, your hardcore Cena fans, the younger ones saying, like, oh, Cena, why, kind of thing, but without, like, being melodramatic. He touched enough on it last week to make you think that, hey, there might be something else here, but I don't feel like it has been.
One thing that was really interesting about Orton last week that I'll bring up, and maybe it'll trigger some thoughts from you, prompt some thoughts, is he said Cena was always a phony. I don't buy that. I mean, like, I'm not ruling out that the canon of Cena is supposed to be he was always a phony. I guess we might, but we have to see how this, I assume he's going to turn babyface again and whatever. So for me, for Orton as a babyface to claim that he always knew Cena was a phony, I would have rather had the story be, and Cena didn't really respond to this. Was like, tonight Cena responded a little bit to what Randy said, but mostly he's like, you got insults, I got insults. It wasn't a rebuttal. And one of the rebuttals I would have liked, but Cena hasn't gone there, and it's still the missing piece to this that I think, to me, is a bigger issue than Cena's performance, and that is just the lack of understanding at what point Cena turned against the fans. He hasn't specified. They didn't always boo him. They didn't boo him as much at the beginning. In fact, there's sort of especially at the end, they were embracing him, and he's not fully acknowledging or accounting for that. He hasn't said when he stopped liking kids and thought all the fans were, that were products of weak parents who used him as a substitute. So So when Randy said he was a phony all along, it's like, it's sort of easy to say, I'm going to insult him, I'm going to say he was always a phony, but it didn't land with me, and I didn't see evidence of it. And Cena just hasn't specified either way. So that's one talking point in this, that I just wish they would decide behind the scenes what's the timeline of when Cena just really had a bad attitude about the fans. There has to be a moment that he could point to, and then Orton can. And what I would have rather had Orton say is, John, I always knew your connection with the fans would come to an end. I knew that at some point in your career, the booze would get to you and you would handle it poorly, or that you wouldn't understand why the fans were, so many of the fans were booing you all along, and you would turn on them. I always saw it coming. I knew it was hard work for you to be as friendly and affable and a hero to so many people. Like, there was a way for Orton to say, I saw this coming, more than saying you were always phony.
Yeah, I think the reason that, I'm not saying it works for me, because it doesn't work for me, but the problem is that because it's lacking that, it's missing a lot of that, it kind of lets you to read into the stuff that they're saying. So when he says phony, I'm thinking less about in terms of like, he's always pretending, but the idea that Cena always felt like it was his job to do this, because, he is very, like I said, very fastidious, very like, good soldier, so he's putting on a brave face for this. And in reality, like, it is getting to him, and he doesn't really have that bond. And it kind of works in the real world, because he never forms a bond with the audience, because, people didn't want to have Cena. They wanted it. Well, and that's the thing, because in your conversations with Todd, it's not that the people didn't want Cena. They didn't want that version of Cena, because, that was when, the reason, because that is part of the reason why I stopped watching WWE, because he was very corny. And then there were times where he was allowed to get serious, when people say bring out the shovel, where he got serious in certain situations and got mean in his promos and got mean in his actions in the ring, and people were like, oh, here's the badass. But just as whenever he started moving that direction, if people started getting with him at that point, they would pull back and he would become like super corny, cartoony again.
Now,
so
that indicates to me you think he had it in him to do a better job as a heel, or do you think he's been John Cena too long to tap back into what he was on the verge of doing back then?
See, I don't think it was necessary. We kept calling it heel, but I think he had it within him to be Stone Cold 2.0 in terms of doing dickish things, but people still love him for it. Being a badass, unapologetic, take what he wants type of character. Not in the exact same, beer drinking kind of guy, but like, think of like the Terminator in the second Terminator movie, how badass Schwarzenegger is in that movie, he's that kind of, character that just mows down like the villains, but being cool. The thing is, he was never cool. And the moments that he started getting cool, it's like, that's part of the reason why during that era is like people complain a lot about the PG-13 era, is because they didn't let him get that edge, because they felt like that edge, whenever he approached that edge, it's like, oh, that edge is getting too close to like R-rated territory, so we got to pull it back to PG for like, the kids in, watching, Saturday morning cartoons. And that was the problem with Cena. You always pulled him away from that edge of him being a badass. And I think that's more than anything. When people say, oh, I always want to see him turn heel, it's because what they really wanted to see was him be a badass. That I think is really what they wanted out of him. And I think that he had that in him. He is a cool character as a Peacemaker. So he has those, he has that in him. It's just he was never allowed. And the thing is that he's just basically right now playing the reverse of that. So he's not even playing a cool heel. He's not, he's not, because he's just basically just inverting what he said as babyface.
And if he played a cool heel, he might get cheered, and that could sabotage Cody and Randy.
Yeah. So I mean, the best thing was always to be cool. Like NWO ended up becoming, fan favorites because they were cool, even though they were heels. And then they toned down the cheating and stuff, and they were baby faces. That's kind of like what they wanted for Cena, and that's what happened with. I mean, look at Reigns. Reigns came back as a heel, with the old tribal chief gimmick, and within a month, people were already putting their fingers in the air. That how long did the heel run really run. When people were acknowledging him like within the first week of the gimmick. They just then played along once the you put your finger down because they were engaged in the other aspects of the story, but because he was cool, and ultimately that is like you got to make your characters cool. You get some exceptions. Sometimes like Cody's not really cool, but he's forthright. He's kind of like Superman, and he's like Superman's always a lot of people don't think Superman's cool, but there's something about that character that people gravitate to. That's Cody. Mm-hmm. And but that also has a shelf life. You get tired, and then eventually someone creates one of those Superman knockoffs where he's actually a villain kind of thing, like Sentry in the most recent Thunderbolt Marvel movie. Where it's like Superman but with an edge, because that's what people want. People want characters that are cool, and that's the thing. Cena was never allowed to be cool for most of his run.
Comment here from Derek on our conversation. Derek Hubbard in the chat says, I think it's important to rephrase your assessment to clarify that he was not cool for late teens and adults, but he was cool for kids. If he was not, he would not have sold the merch. I guess it depends on how you define cool, but cool for young kids is different than cool for teens and adults. Javier, what do you think?
But I'm cool in a shonen. If you're familiar with shonen is in Japan, which are like where Dragon Ball Z and stuff comes from, there is a difference between you could bridge that gap. You could be cool, and yeah, it worked for kids, but this would be like Barney, versus cool Transformers. They're two different things where you could have something that like Shrek is a perfect example. The movie Shrek, where Shrek, if you watch it as a young kid, you enjoy it because of the goofy stuff you're seeing, but there's some like adult level humor that would go over a kid's head. Mm-hmm. And you could do that with a character with an edge. The thing is that he was pulled back further, to more of a Sesame Street, that level lore than,
And there's something about him in his body, his cartoonish face, like his facial expression, his chin, his eyes, everything is very cartoonish and like almost over the top, and I don't think he can do anything about it. Like he moves weird in the ring. When he runs the ropes, it's just there's something about him that feels like there's just this giant toddler who's like in a grown-up body and doesn't know how to move and make facial expressions like a grown-up, and that did appeal to young kids. But I don't know that it's as easy to transform as he aged into what people wanted him to do. We spent years during his prime talking about what a heel turn would mean, and I think he still had that youthful aspect to him that could have worked, and I don't think he's had that for a long time, and I don't know that he can be anything other than what we've seen. Derek adds, the adult view of Cena is the only perspective that gets attention on shows like this. So you're helping us draw a little attention, Derek, to another aspect of him. Another comment from Sean Plichta in the chat. Cena turning on the fans just felt so fake because he had always been so close with the fans. It's just so hard to believe from his point of view. And that's what Todd Martin has talked about, that sense of, when you know a character really well, when you feel the person really well who plays a character because there's a big overlap and a connection or perception of such, when they turn, it's hard to make it land and seem authentic. It does feel like, to a lot of people, a performance, and I don't think Cena's done enough to overcome that. Kyle Fassel brings up a different point. I don't feel a reason for him to win personally. Like, he's a face, but him beating Cena feels boring to me. It's hard to cheer for a face in this situation. Yeah, that's why I said at the top of the show, I don't, Orton kissed the belt, but, as you say, I mean, it's going to be Cena winning. I mean, I'd be shocked, but I was shocked when Jey Uso won the Rumble. I mean, so, can't rule anything out. Maybe they have something in mind for a quick turnaround to get it back to Cena and have him stack up title wins, and Orton does too, whatever. I mean, I'm open to them shocking us for the sake of a shock and then having a way to steer back to some, the place we think they were going anyway. But I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I think this is my highest certainty. I think I'm as close to 100% with Cena winning this one as any. But
after Jay lost to Gunther at Saturday's main event, I was like, oh, Jay's cutting a promo talking about winning the Rumble. Yeah, right. I guess he has to, check that box as a, and then he won. I mean, this feels like it would be more surprising than Jay winning the Rumble after it seemed like they're kind of he already reached the peak.
Yeah, well, I mean, surprise. Yeah, I think it would be surprising because the thing is that the only way I agree with you that if they want to do a thing where they switch the titles back and forth to try to get like or closer to breaking the record kind of thing. But I don't think you have enough time to tell all the stories that they want to tell between now and then. I think it's just like a goodbye. And particularly since they're selling this as the goodbye, I don't think you're going to have another match. The only other reason would be like if Cena were injured, but in that case, I'm pretty sure that would have been leaked a long time ago.
Yeah. Another chat comment, Standard Deviation said, I wasn't intrigued by the Orton-Cena backstory. Orton failed to live up to his potential, and Cena worked hard. They're different, but they both think they're the greatest of all time. Is that right? Elaborate, Javier, on what you thought, especially with Cena tonight, talking about we're the representatives of the Ruthless Aggression era. We, if you're in this age group, we're going to end your childhood, kind of implying he was an everlasting part of their childhood, and now it's going away. He's taking it away from them. Obviously, they're two very different people. And Cena pulled some, did some digs, the 2006 drug tests that Orton failed. He's going to be a failure just like that. Really played up Randy as somebody who had a spotty record in the past, made some bad choices. All true. But it can come across as, hey, why are you airing dirty laundry? Why are you, dwelling on the past? Look at him now. He's rebounded from that. Not everybody has as smooth of a journey and gets to be a smiling baby face with kids cheering them like Cena. And it comes across, as heelish too, after all that Randy's been through and where he's landed storyline wise and to a degree in real life with a better attitude and a joy to his performance that we hadn't seen in a long time. In a sense, Cena's criticizing Orton for old news. And I think fans are just like, well, yeah, Cena, you might have had a point in the past, but it's not him now. But that's what you want. You don't want fans nodding along to Cena. So Cena pulling out this dirty laundry or this, checkered past with Orton almost feels like cheap shots now. But that's why I say this all in the end weaves to, I want Orton to get some shots in at Cena. I want to see him give it to Cena. But I know Cena's going to win in the end. But I'm going to enjoy Orton beating up Cena most of the match before whatever, the eventual finish happens. So your thoughts on kind of that being the selling point of the match because of their history?
Yeah, I honestly, I think would have preferred the two promos switched. Have Cena first do this, and then because Randy did own up into the
they might have wanted to too, Javier, but Cena's in for the weekend, and it's harder to get dates for him than Randy. So
yeah. So I totally believe that being the issue because it almost felt like the questions were posed this week that Randy answered last week.
Yeah,
was kind of the thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So that's where I felt on that. What was your question?
Oh, just do you think that it's right that the selling point of this match is more, I want to see Randy beat up Cena and have Cena sell. I know Cena's going to win in the end, but I still want to have the satisfaction of the journey of seeing Randy beat him up for a while.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's more the nostalgia factor. To be honest, that's the number one selling point. Because to be fair, like it's very hard to really get in today's I want to see this guy get beat up kind of thing. It's kind of morphed more into like I want to see this story finished the right way. That's kind of I think the way that a lot of fans are more engaging with the product, which is why you get some of those hug it out kind of chants and stuff like that. They want to see more the evolution of the story than necessarily seeing a guy beat up. You would have to put it in in a more you have to put in a lot more work to want to see someone get beat up like how they did with Gunther than what they've done so far with Cena and Orton. This is more feels like you could almost have not done any of the promo work that they've done and just say we're going to have Cena and Orton one more time, and I think it wouldn't have made much of a difference.
Yeah. Dwayne Carpenter says, since Cena Orton won't be a masterpiece, is anyone surprised that maybe they didn't make this an ODQ match where they could do some brawling and maybe cover for the lack of in-ring work? I think you can brawl and still have it no DQ, but are you surprised there isn't a special stipulation of some kind, a no DQ or otherwise for this? Or is it the nostalgia trip of two guys who were good for their era? Randy was sort of a 3.25 star specialist. Cena pointed out, you just, kind of coasted a lot of your years. Cena had some, 4-star plus matches. It was usually his opponent that made that work, but Cena rose to the occasion. Cena, people were skeptical at the beginning, and then there was, Edge, and it's like, whoa, this is eye-opening. And then JBL was better than people expected, and he wasn't just plotting or doing, gimmicky matches, and he obviously had that U.S. title run, which is still, I think a lot of people look at that as like a good way for a wrestler to go, hey, I want to establish myself with an open challenge, bring on a variety of opponents, let me face them. But Cena's also not a full-time wrestler anymore. He's far from it. Physically not what he once was. Randy's starting to show age too. That grace and natural athleticism feels a little more burdened with muscle and wear and tear, and everything feels a little bit. It's kind of like watching LeBron James in the NBA now. There's moments, and there's also times when you can tell it's like you just want to go look on YouTube at what he did 15 years ago and be like, okay, that's how I want to remember him.
Yeah, I think that the announce team is going to have to shoulder a lot of the weight in this match. I think they really need to work on. I think that's ultimately what is going. The match is going to really hang on to, because they need to be able to tell the story. I mean, granted, it has to come from the ring, but I think the announce team also has to put over the story they're telling in the ring too. Because in their glory days, they had very solid matches. They don't have anything that, like, they weren't like the AJ Styles kind of, product that what he was doing on TNA, that kind of stuff. I think that, so I think that the playing into their history a lot is one of the things that this match is going to have to shoulder. There's going to be like another Cody style match where, a lot of it is in the telling of a story inside the ring. I just have more faith in Cody doing that than Randy Orton specifically, but we'll see. I'm not expecting to get to be blown away by this match by any means.
No. That is smart. What about just Cena being into this? East Coast in the chat says Cena acts like he doesn't want to be the heel, like his heart is not at all in the role. I was worried about that. I think this is Cena trying. Yeah, I mean it could be multiple things, because it does feel post the Firefly Funhouse match that he had. His appearances since then have kind of been him just like felt like going through the motions, playing greatest hits kind of thing. This kind of still feels like that way, except with him in the heel role. It could be that this is him trying, but he just hasn't been around, and you need reps. Just as you need in the ring, you need reps in the with doing live promos like that. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe his heart's not in it because he was expecting more, and like he's calling it premium level work, and he's not getting the premium level work, and he's just getting like, hey, just do what you've always done except as a heel. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Maybe that's why his heart's not into it, because it's not the way that he wanted to go. I don't know. That's a subject for a book in the future. Yeah. Standard Deviation said this is a rare main event in which neither character is interwoven with multiple other characters in ways that entice fans to imagine post-match drama, run-ins, and distractions. I was thinking about that. Like, what is this? Just Cena winning straight up with a attitude adjustment over Randy? Is it a transition to whatever Cena's next opponent is? Is there someone who's going to take out Orton? I mean, I don't think it's going to be Kevin Owens. But is someone going to cost Randy a match in some way to give Randy, quote, an out for losing to him? I don't think so. I think, but I didn't put this in my primer, but I think we maybe see Cody show up like at the end, just to, because Todd did bring up a good point that it seems like this is a pay-per-view that, almost every heel is going to win. Having Cody come out at the end may mitigate that. I'm putting that, I'm saying maybe these people are cheering one and not cheering the other. So it could be dangerous, but I think that might be a, him showing up like at the end, maybe Cena starts taking liberties on Orton, and because I think that would be the way you get the fans cheering, is that if he's taking liberties on Orton, and then Cody comes in to make the save, that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. Javier, let's switch and just run down the card. I said it'd be a little briefer. We did a lot on Randy and Cena, but it's one of the defining feuds and most common, frequent main event matches of the last 20 plus years. So we've got the U.S. title situation, which was a big focus of tonight's SmackDown. LA Knight, Damian Priest opening up SmackDown, crossing paths, arguing. They ended up in a tag team match, argued there before, during, and after. Jacob Fatu stood tall with the belt in the ring as a champion, cut a promo later in the show to Solo Sikoa going, we don't need soldiers, because Solo was lamenting not having anyone around him to help. And he's like, I'll get it. I got this. I'll dog walk each of them. And Solo's like, all right. And then you had Drew McIntyre getting in his shot. Drew still doing stellar work as a heel. It feels like if they didn't have the main eventers they have, he'd be a main eventer and people would be satisfied. He just has a presence, and his promo tonight I thought was really strong too. So going into this, you predicted in your column, which will be posting soon. It'll be up by the time people are watching this or listening to the podcast version on delay. You predicted Fatu winning. I agree. Tell me more.
Anytime you have a multi-man match for a title, 9 times out of 10, the champion, the incoming champion, is going to win it, unless there's a reason that you want to move him to a different story and want him to drop the title without having him take a pin, like they did with Braun Breaker. But I don't see a story in the future of Fatu, so that's that is a cheat code. And also how it was Knight who ended up with the pin right at the end, which tells me that he's going to probably be eating the pin tomorrow. Yeah. Ultimately, it's this Fatu's going to win, and the purpose of the
Knight scored the victory with his BFT over Solo, and I was thinking they might go the other way to give Solo a chance to get like a win, because Knight seems sort of Teflon. In the sense that he's defined where he is. I don't think him losing to Solo is going to be like, oh, now I can't imagine Knight being the centerpiece world champion of WWE. Well, that's not, people should realize that's not going to be him. But they just keep sacrificing Solo. But it does, as you point out, the logic is, okay, he got his win on SmackDown, and that means he can absorb a loss at Backlash and just end up even by next week.
Yeah, and in that match, Solo losing also is going to drive further a wedge of him being the weak link with him and Fatu. So, that adds a little bit to that for the future breakup between the two. But yeah, so in terms of the match, I'm expecting, it being Knight to get to be pinned, and ultimately I think this is just a direct way to get to whatever they're going to be doing next, either Drew and Knight, maybe something that happens in the match, Knight getting pinned pisses off Drew, and now it moves Drew off of Priest onto Knight, and then Priest can start feuding straight up with Fatu. It could be just a way to shift some of the pieces. I think this is just like a holding pattern match kind of thing.
So also tonight's show, we had a video recap of Pat McAfee and Gunther with PWTorch talking about the brotherhood of announcing before throwing to the video package. Didn't get fresh material tonight, but there's speculation on who is going to interfere to give McAfee the win over Gunther. Or is it just going to be Gunther winning and pinning McAfee? I mean, I'd be for Gunther just pinning McAfee. McAfee puts up a good fight, but he loses. They sweep him out of the ring. He takes a week off, comes back, says, hey, I put up a fight. Hope you appreciate it. Cole's like, that was, brave of you. You had no business being in the ring, but I appreciate, you honoring our friendship. And whatever. I just take it straightforward. But you listed 3 names and put the word likely in front of them for interfering. Either way, Gunther will take it out of McAfee, and Gunther's next opponent will make the save, likely Goldberg, Jeff Cobb, or Ilya Dragunov if he's healthy. Jeff Cobb's intriguing. That'd be an intriguing way for him to debut. I don't know. I mean, you've seen a lot of Jeff Cobb, Javier. What do you think is the best use of him? And do you think that the way to introduce him is for him to be the guy who stands next to McAfee and says, you got a problem with him, you got a problem with me?
Yeah, the reason I put that guy second is because I don't know what their connection would be, and you would have to manufacture one. There's more connection with Goldberg because they did do some stuff with Gunther making fun, poking fun at Goldberg that I don't think it went anywhere, and you could which is why it's likely that if they're able to get if they set up as Goldberg's final match, I could see that being what they do. With Cobb, just because I believe he announced his retirement on social media, obviously tongue in cheek. So we've been expecting him to debut at any point in time. He's just like the one issue is there are a lot of the same wrestlers categorized in the same spot as him, like Bronson Reed. He's like a Bronson Reed kind of guy, smaller, but still the same compact. If you remember Rhino, he reminds me a lot of Rhino in terms of his.
I remember Rhino. He was on Dynamite on Wednesday.
I've met him for the general audience, not you, Wade. No, I don't remember running.
I just couldn't help it.
Yeah, so that's the kind of person that's where I would put Cobb in, and it'd be I think that you push him. Gunther's one of your top guys in Raw. You could put Cobb in there for the time being, see if the audience gloms onto him and see what you can do with him. He's a fun character. He's personable. I don't think I want him to see it. I think he works better as a babyface because he's such a nice guy. So it would work against Gunther too. So I'm fine with him and Goldberg being the two that show up. I brought up Dragunov just because history there. The thing, Dragunov is supposed to not. They're saying he won't be ready until like September, but you never know.
He could interfere, but.
Well, I mean, and it's an AC tear, and sometimes those are like could be 2 years, could be like 6 months for some people. So so you never know. But they're saying September-ish, but I mean this is pretty far. But maybe he's a miracle healer like Cena has always been. But yeah, that could be but he's like a far third option. But I just believe this has got to be moving to something else. I don't think that this is just because if this were just like a one of those like book a match kind of thing, I would see it like in the Saudi situation, like like one of those. Mm-hmm. But it's not. I think this is just like a moving on to another thing. And this is the only one where I think that the babyface could win, in case of like Mm-hmm. It could be just something as simple as Gunther is not taking him seriously, although obviously the promo on Monday said that I'm going to take you seriously, so that's why I kind of have a discount a little bit more, but he's not taking him seriously, and then you just get a leverage pin, maybe even with legs on the rope, and just how did this happen kind of
totally.
wacky whack-a-doodle ending, totally
in the realm.
Yeah, and then that just drives Gunther even further crazier, takes more liberties on him, and then somebody comes to save him. So that's kind of like what I'm expecting, but ultimately, I think that's just we'll find out who's the next opponent is tomorrow.
Then we have Dominic and Penta Intercontinental title match. You think Dom will retain with help from El Grande Americano? Elaborate on what you think of the hype and your justification or rationalization for the prediction.
Yeah, I mean, Mike reminded me on this week's Acknowledging WWE because I had forgotten about Grande Americano that they have crossed paths before. But yeah, this is the tail end of a Hunter special because this has just been going on since like WrestleMania, and it's part of the whole matches being broken and interference in matches, and that's going on. I mean, maybe they put the title on Penta, but I think that there's more drama to be had with Dominic still holding the title, with the whole Balor and JD situation going on in that. I think it just doesn't really make sense for the title to switch there. But I also don't think that they're going to straight up beat Penta, and it will have to, and I think it would have to involve something beyond the Judgment Day, because like the way I see like interference, I don't see interference finishes like in terms of like interference by like someone takes someone not involved in the match takes a cheap shot. I don't see that as necessarily cop-out finish because that's like what the heels do. I consider that kind of like a move onto itself, that it's just not a pleasant move for us. So that kind of cheating I'm fine with. It's when the match doesn't happen, when the match gets blown up, and we were just to protect people, that but in terms of like but that's a long way to getting to that Judgment Day. When you wrestle a member of Judgment Day, you're wrestling the entire heel group. So you need to, so like anyone interfering in the match for the person who's wrestling to win, that's fair game. That's part of like the DNA of the match. So you need someone on the outside, in which case it makes sense. Grande Americano, since the two of them have had issues, this takes Penta away from this is the IC title, the IC title. So he has a feud with Grande, continuing the Grande storyline of him going after luchadors, and so go on from there. All right, you're muted.
Streak lives. This is not part of SmackDown tonight, but it is part of Backlash, and we're previewing Backlash, so we'll hit this quick. Lyra Valkyria defending the WWE Women's Intercontinental title against Becky Lynch. You are predicting Becky wins unless Bayley gets involved. We know CJ LaChapelle in the chat is waiting for Bayley, and if Bayley doesn't show up, he's turning off the show. What do you just elaborate on this a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've this feud. I've been very, very, very harsh on Lyra Valkyria since she's been in the WWE. Not because I want to be, but it's just because I just didn't feel anything. She made me feel the last two promos that she had. She's shown personality. She's shown fire, and I've enjoyed the last two. Her last two outings. Unfortunately, it just feels like Becky's going to win because I mean, if it's a straight up finish, you're not going to bring back Becky and just not have her. Have her win the title at that point. So, particularly when it's with Lyra, and then move on to Bayley, her wrestling Bayley for the title after Lyra. So that's the gut feeling. But if you want to keep Lyra with the title, then you could have Bayley, interfere in the match and then, help Lyra win, retain, and then, because I don't think Bayley and Becky need a title for that feud, but I do think that you're more likely going to get the title involved in that feud.
Very good. Javier, do you want to stick around or do you want to run?
I'm going to run because I have not slept at all this week. So.
Yep, we got the last fuel.
I am on E, man. I'm on E.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for joining us for the Backlash preview.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Check out slurring my words.
That is just fine. And check out Javier's podcast. It is part of the PWTorch Daily Cast lineup, acknowledging WWE. Mike Myers, his guest co-host, part of the rotation of great co-hosts on his show. And a lot of good talk going into this weekend on that show, as Javier mentioned. Again, search PWTorch in your podcast app. That is free. Of course, if you go VIP, you will get a ad-free version with commercials edited out. And you can get that through Patreon or Spotify with a 7-day free trial. Just search PWTorch VIP in Patreon or Spotify, and that will unlock all the VIP shows. Plus, that VIP feed has a version of these free shows where the commercial breaks are just skipped. So it's just a nice streamlined listening experience, which I know a lot of people appreciate. You can also get a full VIP membership, and details on that is at pwtorch.com/govip. This unlocks our library that is over 35 years of content, hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s on demand, over 20 years of podcasts dating back to 2003, and also our library of Pro Wrestling Torch newsletters dating back to the late 1980s, and so much more, plus an ad-free website for desktop and mobile. pwtorch.com/govip. All right, so we're going to go next to David Miller. He is a PWTorch contributor, and he is also on hold, wanting to talk about tonight's SmackDown. David, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Good to talk to you. Thanks for holding so long.
Sure, no problem, Wade. Thank you. Just to reiterate what you were talking about with John Cena, I compared John Cena to John Wayne. It was once said that every role that John Wayne ever played, he played the part of John Wayne.
That's really good.
And John Cena is really the same way. What you see is what you get with him. The only problem I have with the heel persona is there was not a smooth transition into this at all. Mm-hmm. It's like you're watching an episodic TV show on Netflix and you miss a couple of shows, and then you pick it back up 2 or 3 shows later, and you're like, what just happened here? Why? Again, we did not get the follow up with why. Like, as you were saying, why did he do this? At first it looked like The Rock instigated this or had a part in it, but that was completely forgotten about after the Elimination Chamber. So we had nothing other than Cena coming out there and suddenly turning against the fans. Like you said, suddenly he's bitter over being booed. And the ironic thing is, I was one of those people back in the day that did not like the Super Cena gimmick at all. I got tired of, you could throw 25 people in the ring with him, he would beat them all. He would always, he had he was the Hulk Hogan of his era. He overcame the odds always. He was pushed down our throats. People got tired of it. I got tired of it. But the ironic thing is, for this comeback of his, or this last last hurrah, though, whatever he wants to call it, for his retirement tour, I found myself cheering for him in the Elimination Chamber. And I've never been a Cena fan, and I think a lot of the fans at this point in time were cheering him more so than in the past, because it was the nostalgia factor. So it was not an organic heel turn at all.
And it might have been, if not for the meddling of Dwayne "The Rock" Final Boss Johnson. I mean, he wanted Cody to turn, and so the Cena thing was sort of last second. I think it'd been on the radar as a possibility, but not master planned. And then Cena's like, "Oh, let me think about it. Okay, I'll do it, but I want to do it now, not then." And it is kind of it's unfortunate. It does feel a little half baked in terms of the setup. I mean, the turn came out of nowhere, and I mean it could have used a little more vetting, a little more. I don't know if planning. You don't want to forecast it. You want it to be shocking, but you want there to be things that you can point back to very specifically that add credibility to and believability and authenticity to this.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact is, what we're going to get tomorrow night, I think, is what everyone, what we got tonight is what I expected. It was booking 101. You have the heel come out there and cut a harsh promo, which I thought was a fine promo. I thought it was good. He threw in a couple of personal things there to kind of ramp it up a little bit. And I don't understand the logic behind having someone who is probably at least a good 6 inches shorter than Randy Orton come out there in a hood.
I know, that was weird.
That was not good. I'm like, okay, that's not. You could tell that wasn't Randy Orton. So I don't know what they were doing there, but he did he got the RKO on Cena. It's going to be, what we expect it to be tomorrow night. It'll be a typical Cena-Orton match. I don't believe Orton will, there's no chance of him winning. I think the only question is, how is the match going to end? How is Cena going to beat him? Is there going to be interference? Will, somebody like Travis Scott come back out? Not sure how that's going to turn out, but I want to backtrack a little bit into around the middle of the show. The Nia Jax and Jade Cargill. That was, I would say, the low point of the night. Nia and Jade, I don't think gel very well in the ring together. And quite honestly, when I've seen better super kicks on Evolve and even independent promotions than what Jade Cargill was throwing out there. She's got the look, she's got the personality, she's got the character, but she really needs some more in-ring work to tighten up her moveset there and tighten up her moves. The kicks were not good. It didn't look good. The match of the night, I think, went to the tag team match. And here's where we got a situation where I think it's the opposite of Jade Cargill. You've got an extremely talented team. You got an extremely talented team in the tag team champions here, the Street Profits, but they come out and there's still like zero reaction to them. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but they're not getting. But they go in there and they put on a stellar match. It was a great match they had, but they don't. They're not quite over with the fans just yet. I'm not sure. I think they used to be more over when they had the cups falling from the ceiling and they were coming out like that. They seem to have gotten a little bit cold. What's your opinion on the Street Profits here? You're muted.
It's muddled. We don't know who the Street Profits are right now. I mean, we got a good idea, but I think we're even suspicious. Congratulating Frazier and Axiom afterwards and raising their arms, and there was no incident. So it seems like they are good guys. They're baby faces, but there was nothing tonight that made me think, oh, I could never cheer them. I want to boo them. I don't like them, unless you just don't like, something about their personality that's always been there, and it's framed a little differently now. There's a cockiness and an edge, but I don't know. Like, to me, you want to give fans a real solid reason to cheer or boo you, and when you needlessly muddle that, you end up with fans not really having a instinct or even a motivation to respond strongly one way or the other. So the idea that they're bragging about having a good match is not. I mean, that's like if that's the type of thing AEW would do, Tony Khan would promote, and I thought Paul Levesque would make fun of. I did. I think, they're over there bragging about good matches. Like, that should be part of the storyline and canon of a TV show. Good matches should be something people recognize, but it's not something you should promote as like your gimmick or main reason people should have an emotion about you. Good matches just, they should. You don't want to. You want them as an inherent, obvious, goes without say part of the product. And there are standout matches that are way above just a good match. And you can have an announcer talk about it, but I don't think the wrestler should be bragging about how exciting their match is. Surviving, and that was built in too. Like, we survived and we persevered, but the signals have been mixed with them. So I think the tag division of having all the shortcut booking and having all the tag wrestlers just interact with each other indiscriminately, and I don't know. I mean, I think fans I think it works better to have more traditional structure too. There's two teams feuding right now, and right now there's 7 teams feuding, give or take, in the division, and I don't think there's enough strong emotional fan investment in who wins or who goes, rooting for somebody to ultimately persevere over this collection, because they're all just in a cluster interacting with each other. David.
Yeah, I think the Street Profits have the personality. They've just not shown it lately. And the same thing, you've got the exact same situation with the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yep.
Great tag team in the ring, but who are they? Who are the Motor City Machine Guns? They've gone out there and they put on great matches, but that's all we've seen from them. We've not seen who they are. The fans don't have a reason to care about them. And this, Wade. I grew up in the era of the Fabulous Ones, the Rock and Roll Express,
sure,
the Grapplers. These were teams that you wanted to win. You would see, for instance, Ricky Morton, selling his behind off and reaching out to the fans, help me, and all that. And oh my God, you wanted to see them win. The Grapplers, one of the dirtiest teams in Memphis at the time. You cannot wait to see somebody put them in their place. We don't have that with the tag team division here in WWE right now.
And I think there's no reason to move away from having those the characters. They can be modern versions of it, but clearly defining who the face and who the heel are, with, again, that rare exception of a special attraction match. Just, it seems like that should be the go-to. And I think the response to these tag matches should be a lesson learned. And I think they're just trying to fit all these tag teams on TV, and so they just inevitably want to mix them up. And I just think they should be booked in, paired off in feuds and find a way to give them TV time. And I don't even know if it's a philosophy as much as we just want to get them all on TV at once. Like the, women's segments used to be all the women gather backstage at once and yell at each other or stand by each other. X Division matches on TNA pay-per-views where every X Division guy's in one match. It's 6 or 8 people. It was rare to have a one-on-one X Division match because they didn't want to give more than one match to the X Division on their pay-per-views, but they had all these people who were on TV, so we'll put them all into one match on pay-per-views. I mean, I don't know. I think you can rotate your tag teams in and out and not always have all of them on TV. I mean, the Machine Guns would be better off not being on TV than standing around with 10 seconds interacting with another team in a way that is just playing into the idea of everybody's just going to fight everybody in kind of a round robin style indiscriminately. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. Some people are. I think I understand the reasons they're doing it. I don't think it's better than only having 2 tag teams and never having any other teams around, but I think there's a better way to go about this, and clearly defining who we should be rooting for and why, I think, is part of it. David, anything else quick you want to add? Because I do want to get to our other callers on hold too.
No, yeah, just one last thing, and that's one thing NXT does a great job of when it comes to their tag team division. You have that clear definition there, and the backstage segments you had with Fraxium, you got a feel for their personality, the quirkiness of their personalities and things like that, and that's what's lacking. They, as you said, they can slow down on trying to fit all these teams in together at once and just focus on some character development on the ones that on a couple of them at a time that they do have, and because they got all the talent in the world. They you got Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, Street Profits, all the talent in the world, but they need better character definition, better reason for us to care about what they're doing and why.
Yeah. All right, David, appreciate it. Thanks for contributing.
Thank you, Wade.
Always good talking with you. Love the history. David, a long time wrestling viewer All right, let's bring Jason D onto the show from Australia, and then we got Sean from Tennessee on hold. Jason, welcome. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Wade. Just talking about quickly going back to Cena. I mean, if people aren't feeling his heel turn, and that's what some people are saying, I mean, I can understand that. I'm feeling it, but I'm generally more inclined to go along with what they're giving me on TV and sort of not forcing myself to go along with it, but maybe I'll be a bit more lenient. But at the end of the day, you can't escape from the fact it's a disconnect because it's happened at the wrong time for people. That's why people aren't getting into it. If it happened 12 years ago, then everything he'd be saying would be running true. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. And it also doesn't help that without even trying, we're hearing about backstage stuff that's going into this without even us trying to search for that information. It's been put out there for us to hear, and then that sort of clouds our judgment as well. So that's why if people aren't feeling it, it's because of that. I believe what Cena is saying because, as I said, I think it's what he feels sort of deep down at a 3, but turning it up to 10. So he's doing the best with what he can, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough.
I want to talk about, with Aleister Black, I brought this up last week, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Second match, is he the type of character that should be winning a match with a roll-up? To me, he wouldn't be happy with that. He wants to knock out the person. He wants to make a statement. And you're matching him up with Carmelo Hayes, and you've given Carmelo this push by winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They want to do something with him. So this, to me, comes across as sort of even booking. We don't want to pin Carmelo clean, so we give him a roll-up against Aleister Black. But that doesn't really match Aleister Black and the type of character he is. So why put these two together in a feud? I can understand the Miz, but Carmelo Hayes, this is a bit of a disconnect for me.
Yeah, I was surprised by the roll-up. I mean, it's playing into, they're planting seeds for Carmelo and Miz to have a problem with each other because it was, Black moving out of the way and then Hayes knocking Miz off the ring apron. But having a roll-up finish with someone like Aleister Black with all his talk in that vignette earlier, and it didn't feel, it didn't feel satisfying. They haven't been working hard to protect Carmelo. I don't know why they would start now. I think Black could have spun him. Carmelo could have just turned around and eaten a black mass after bumping into Miz. I just don't see a reason they did that finish. So I don't know if it's a sign they overrate the satisfaction level of roll-up finishes, or or we're overrating their plans for Aleister Black, or we're underrating how quickly they want to push Carmelo Hayes, or they just did it thoughtlessly out of habit. I'm not sure which category it is.
It's just a roll-up for Aleister Black.
I'm with you. Oh, totally.
Doesn't suit him.
Nope.
Why would he be happy with that?
Yeah. He did get to land a black mass on Miz afterwards, so he can be happy with that. But yeah, to me, I just think he would go for the black mass on Carmelo once Carmelo turned around. That seems more natural for his persona.
Good. So getting back to the tag teams, right, and the Street Profits, to me, it's funny because they have sort of been all over the place, but clearly they are a babyface team with more of an edge to them, right? That's what they are, with a slight heel tendency. Now, whether that's going to help them getting the overwhelming cheers they want, the new theme song that they have, regardless of whether it's a good song or not, people are not familiar with it. So they didn't pop for them. It seemed like they popped for them once they came out because they were used to the old theme song. I actually thought it was out of character for them to not attack Axiom after they raised their hands. I thought that they would have actually, gone after them because they seemed to not be happy with the fact they were put into this match.
It was weird. I think they would take the loss harder.
Yes.
And does it even, you challenge us to a match when we're hurt from the TLC match and you beat us, and now we're going to congratulate you for beating us, but the whole story of the match is you shouldn't have challenged us now. You should have waited. I think Wade Barrett sounded that. It was a tainted victory and therefore not meaningless, but it's not really a good, I don't know. Why would the Profits congratulate them? They should have, I don't know. I didn't like the story of the match. I get they built in there's hurt from TLC and I like long-term selling, but the idea that Nick Aldis would go, well, let's have Fraxium beat go against the Profits when the Profits are clearly not 100%, and I'll use that as a decision to rush them into a tag title match. Doesn't reflect well on Aldis as a GM either.
No. Granted, it wasn't a tag title match. It's kind of like, I guess, their version of an eliminator.
Yeah, it wasn't. And they framed it that way. If you can win, you can. They said at the end of the match, that's what said, oh, maybe they're in line for a tag match or a tag title match. No.
Yeah. And with the tag team division, I'm a bit more comfortable with what they're doing. But I'm still a big fan of having tag teams with established main eventers in 6-man matches. So put the Motor City Machine Guns with an LA Knight in a 6-man match against 3 other heels and let them showcase their tag team ability. But just I like having babyface tag teams who you are looking to establish furthermore, get the crowd behind with already established singles main eventers, because I like that visual on the screen for them. So I'd like to see them do more, which I actually think, because I've been watching AW lately, I think Tony Khan's trying to do that. I mean, I'm not talking AW yet. I think he's trying to do that. It clearly define who are the baby faces and who are the heels for the most part. So I'd like to see more of that. But overall, with this card at Backlash, look, it's a typical 5-match card. So, but you look at the predictions, it just seems like there's going to be a fallout with every single match, or there's going to be some type of interference, you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's. I think it's a growing issue that they're not going to pay a price for immediately, but they're the boom period they're in right now in certain respects is not because of this type of booking and match finishes. It's because of other things that happened, and yeah, it's too much. It's just a crutch. You know, they don't want to do great booking and condition the audience to understand people can lose clean, and it doesn't mean you're being buried. It just means, sometimes people fight and there's a winner and there's a loser, and sometimes it's a babyface losing clean. That doesn't mean the heels are going to get cheered, as long as there's other things the heels are doing to get fans to boo them. But philosophically, I almost feel like they're phoning in finishes. They're just they're making so much money and they don't want to make hard decisions, and they just want to do things the way they've been done. And it's, it's too bad, because I do think it dulls. I think at the end of a show, fans are less satisfied, and they aren't always sure why, because you're watching and you're just not getting a satisfying conclusion. I think people would rather feel disappointed than nothing. I think they'd rather their babyface lose and be angry and want to see revenge and hope for better next time, than just sort of have this empty feeling of, well, none of those finishes really mattered.
I mean, I guess on that point, again, I'm not as down on the interference types when it comes to matches. I see your point, though.
It's the frequency. It's the percentage. I mean, that's my issue. I don't think you can or not. You can eliminate it entirely. I'd be fine, but I'm fine with it sometimes, Jason. I think the frequency of not announcing finishes or having similar finishes and not having a move decide the outcome is going to cause fans to disinvest in the action that leads up to the finish.
And just one more thing before I go. I mean,
yeah.
I might be in the minority here when it comes to people who listen to this type of show or who are really into it, but match quality for me, like, people did not like the Cena-Cody match, right? I didn't like it. I didn't dislike it. I didn't mind it, because for me, I just wanted to see how it was going to play out. And I guess I've fallen into that trap that as long as people are performing the moves in a half decent way and no one's getting dropped on their head and getting injured, I'm not really strict on how good a match is, because I feel like it's easy to please people these days just by having multiple false finishes off big moves. And I kind of see past that. To me, I'm more about, as long as the match goes well and I'm more intrigued in the finish and where they go with the story, that kind of, I'm more easy to please like that. And I just wonder, am I in the minority like that, or are more people interested in the match quality? Because for me, I know what I'm going to get out of Cena and Orton. I'm not expecting a great match, a so-called great match, but it doesn't bother me. I want to see where the story goes after that. I'm wondering in the chat and other people, are there more people like that, or is everyone just interested in match quality? Like, it has to be a great match.
I don't think they should market match quality. I mean, a passing mention of something that's really stand out is fine, but people know if it's good. They know if they enjoy it. And I think when you start touting how good a wrestling match is, you're almost by definition putting that in a cup with, like, you're forcing. I'm trying to use an analogy. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's like putting rocks in a cup of water. The rocks are the good matches, but it displaces water, which is investing in what really matters, is who wins and loses, and who advances and who regresses in their quest to be successful and win titles. So every time you talk about match quality, you're sort of taking away the notion, or watering down the notion. I'm mixing metaphors here, or using water in two different ways. But you're diminishing the value that what matters most is winning, not how you win in terms of match quality, but did you win, and did you win fairly in the story? And I get where you're coming from, Jason. I think I think most people don't think about match quality. I joke about how the first time I thought about match quality was like when I was like 12 years old or something like that, and I watched Rick Martel and Jimmy Garvin, and it was a Rick Martel AWA World Title defense against gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, and it was boring. And I was like, I never thought about wrestling as boring before, but Rick Martel and Jimmy Garvin made me feel that way. I really wanted it to be a good match. It might have been part of my age, just starting to be more discerning. But I was like, oh, wrestling can be boring even at a top level. There were some boring undercard matches, but never boring main events. So I craved that. I think I noticed it, and then Stan Hansen came in and won the title, and things got exciting again. But Road Warriors versus Freebirds matches back in the peak era of the Road Warriors in the AWA wasn't so much match quality as a spectacle of who's going to win and who's going to sell and how do those big, larger-than-life personalities interact with each other. So I don't think you're in the minority, and I think the losing wrestling company historically is the one bragging about having the best wrestling. The winning wrestling company lets the wrestling speak for itself and spends all their time talking about the stories and the characters and the titles and winning and losing mattering, which is kind of why I'm down on Levesque's booking so many, lame finishes.
Well, because for me, I either like a match or I just thought, I was okay. It's very rare that I hate something, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I either like it or I thought it was okay. All right, and then what are we doing next with it? Like, what is the point? Why did you go with that result, and where are we going from there? That's what I look at.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Yeah, go on.
Chat jumps in. BJF says, interesting point, Jason. I love an amazing match, an hour match like Omega Okada in Japan, but I also loved Hogan Rocket Mania years ago. I like a mix of match quality and spectacle. Derek Mitchell says, I agree with you, Jason. I've been conditioned watching WWE that match quality isn't a WWE priority, but rather moments and storylines.
Yes.
And the thing is you don't WWE not talking about match quality and having wrestlers not talk about match quality, although they do it. I mean, they did tonight. They're touting the TLC match. We hear Tessitore and Cole talk about 5 stars and all that. I mean, it's not like they don't, but it's so built in with John Cena and the history of him and I mean Roman Reigns. Like Roman Reigns tells stories in the ring, but he's still not doing a lot of moves. Brock Lesnar wasn't about match quality. I wish it was in certain ways, because people forget how good he was. Well, I don't know if they forget, but then he just started plowing through people, but his character was just plowing through people. And it was a short, quick day at, clock in, clock out for Brock. I think, he just didn't want to put in the work and take a bunch of bumps either. But you need to have good matches, but let it speak for itself. I don't think you should tout it. I think all your energy on TV should go to getting characters over, titles over, and storylines over. But it doesn't mean WWE doesn't care about match quality. I think that's a big mistake to draw that conclusion. WWE not making it a talking point in the narrative canon of their show does not mean they don't care about it. They do. They just don't think it's, and I'm with them on it. I don't think it makes sense to, if you want to be a major league top level company and not a niche challenger brand, you don't make that a talking point on your TV show, because it's frankly not germane to whether you win or lose. Match quality is just a result of trying to win or lose, and it should just be built in that most of your wrestlers are good enough that it's exciting to watch happen. But yeah, I mean, but after NBA playoffs, people, that was NHL playoffs, that was a really good game, that was so exciting, or God, that was a clunker. I mean, people talk about it in real sports too. It's fine, but the NHL advertises how exciting their games are. I mean, the NBA markets stars and rivalries more than game quality, but they market the athleticism. I think you can talk about great athletes, and they can be great in different ways. But I think just marketing, we're the best wrestle. I just roll my eyes at that as AW's motto. I have
a very strong opinion on that. See, that phrase to me, that's something that is specific for your hardcore base. That's like feeding them. But see, I would have thought a better phrase for them would have been like, AEW, where the stars shine. Something like that.
I agree. I'll tell you what. Nitro took over Raw, Jason, and Eric Bischoff's motto, that before that, Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA, their motto was, we wrestle. It wasn't we're the best wrestle. It's just we wrestle. It was a counter to WWE. It's sports entertainment. It's blitz.
Of course you do. Yeah.
Well, but the point was, it was their way of telling the audience in an era of the 80s, where our focus is on Ric Flair quality matches, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, Barry Windham, Magnum TA, and Nikita Koloff in the Best of 7 series, on and on. We wrestle. In WWE, it's distraction and posturing and playing to the crowd and Junkyard Dog dancing and like so there was it was a marketing move, but it was a marketing move of a company in a distant second place that didn't have the star power to compete. They could have said what you said, where the stars shine, and it would have been a better marketing gimmick. Eric Bischoff got that when he launched Nitro. Remember his phrase?
Where the big boys play.
Exactly.
What works with that? What works with that is that you can take that and go anywhere with that type of phrasing because you're not mentioning wrestling in there. It's like Nike's just do it. You can run with that in any way you want to. Like when you say, I know we're going a little bit off track here, but we're the best wrestle. Well, that's just sort of assume that you're going to have the best wrestlers there. But it's limited in the audience that you're capturing. You want to capture as a broader audience as possible. So if you say something like, where the stars shine, that's open to interpretation. But now you're encapsulating more of a broader audience, and you can run with that in different ways. And it's not so much of an obvious type of statement. Which
if somebody told me the developmental league, the G League, and the NBA the games were more exciting, I don't care. I want to watch Anthony Edwards. I want to watch the top. I want to watch the Joker. I want to watch the Boston Celtics with the history of that franchise. And so it's the teams, it's the legacy, it's the stars, and it's the fact that they're the biggest, highest paid stars in front of the biggest crowds with the brightest lights, fighting for a championship with a lineage that people are going to talk about forever. If the games happen to be more exciting in the G League or some international league, I might watch now and then, but I'm not going to be passionate about it. And if you market it to me, it's like I probably won't fit it into my day because I care about the stars that I know and the journeys that they're on. Pro wrestling is about wrestlers on journeys. It's not about match quality or star ratings. It's not to say you can have bad matches. You should have really good matches, and we can define that differently. I don't think the most highest density of high spots and kicking out of finishers makes a great match. Some people do. I think telling a story and letting things breathe and letting things sink in makes a match better. But the most important thing, both can be very exciting. I don't dislike the high density matches. I just don't think that they're on another level just because the wrestler decides to do more in a shorter period of time over and over again, and have the high density of spots. I don't think that in and of itself is like, why didn't WWE think of that? Well, they philosophically disagree that that's the best way to do it, and they have their reasons, and I don't think that they're wrong. And so with that approach, with where the big boys play, I think you end up with a better. I think you absolutely end up marketing to people in a way where they start thinking, they're going to enjoy the show if the matches are good, but they're tuning in because it's where the biggest stars are. It's where the big boys play. That's the implication. And if you say that and you have big stars and their matches suck, people are going to get bored and stop watching. So if you say it's where the big boys play, you still have to have some level of competence in the ring. And ideally a mix of exciting stuff. And Bischoff knew that, and he, did want to he added state-of-the-art athleticism when Vince McMahon wouldn't with the luchadors and the junior heavyweights. Size wasn't as big of an issue with them. Even with the model where the big boys play, it was sort of the big stars. Sometimes they were big, literally, but they're also big in other ways. They jumped out the screen with big charisma. So Standard Deviation said, give me depth of story, consistent characters with believability, and great matches. Now, the question is, and I don't want to I could do an hour on this. What is a great match? Don't say great match and think everyone's going to agree with your definition of it, because a great match can be something that doesn't have that high density of athletic high spots and big kickouts and oh my God moments and fight forever chance. A great match can be Roman Reigns doing 6 moves total in a match, milking every moment with facial expressions and having a payoff to a story and a finish that creates a buzz and an emotional reaction. That's also a great match. It just doesn't fit the traditional star rating system that gets applied by that kind of corner of fandom.
And that's my point. A great match is open to interpretation. But Wade, you summed it up perfectly. It's about the journey of wrestlers, and that's why I love wrestling. What appeals to me the most is watching somebody rise from the mid card and go to the main event scene, and being part of that pivotal moment. Like one of my favorite moments in wrestling is when The Rock and Triple H at SummerSlam '98 in the ladder match, where The Rock slammed Triple H on the ladder, and he looked up and people started chanting Rocky. They went from Rocky sucks to Rocky, and it's in that moment he became a main eventer. He went from being, we dislike this guy, now we love him. He's doing this cool move. we cannot escape this guy's charisma. Now he's going to reach the top of the card. It's that moments, and like you said, it's the journey where they go from being at one level to rising to the above, and that's what makes wrestling exciting to me. So my whole point with the matches is I'm not so judgmental on wrestlers, because as long as they're doing the moves in a safe way and it looks half decent to me, because there's always going to be some air here or there, I'm happy with that. I want to know what's the finish and where we're going from there, and I don't want to see people getting injured. That's my thing.
And when I say roll my eye at AEW's motto of "We're the best wrestle," I also get it, but I don't love it, and I would have voted against it. I mean, I get that AEW's trying to make a point of their competitive advantages. It's not phony, because Tony Khan genuinely believes in it, but it's a marketing gimmick to the sickos. We're playing to an audience that has that wants to feel like they're watching a superior brand of what pro wrestling is and can be. So that's their marketing, and they want a point of pride in that. But they are drawing 3,000 to 4,000 people, at smaller buildings now, with big drop in viewership in recent years. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it's about stars shining bright and the journeys that they're on, and that's how you drop. Jason, I can talk forever about this, but anything else you want to sneak in before we move on?
No, go to Sean. Do whatever you got to do, Wade.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. I was good talking with you. Yep. All right. We will likely wrap up here with Sean before I read some more chats, maybe get to an email. We'll see what we have time for. I wanted to keep this about 90 minutes tonight, but we're almost there, Sean. So I won't rush you too much, but I don't want to go another half hour or anything. So what's on your mind about tonight's SmackDown?
So I don't know why we haven't even talked about it yet. It was a big thing in the show. I don't know why we haven't talked about it. Charlotte's promo was awful. It was awful. I mean, that's embarrassing. She should be embarrassed to even act like that on TV, whether it was storyline.
So what did you find embarrassing specifically? Because I think the what they had her do, or how she did it, because she stammered over her words, she stomped out of the ring. I mean, the intent of the promo was not for her to stammer over her words, but it was to. Right. It was weird too, Sean, because the announcers talked her up. Oh, she's been gone, but she's been doing media work, working hard in the gym. And I'm like, are they trying to turn her babyface? And then the crowd boos her, and she's like, I want to know why you disrespect me so much. And then she did the thing, if you disrespect me again, I'll never come back here. I'm stomping out of the ring, and she did. So what was embarrassing? The intent, the delivery, what?
I mean, I think it was just the delivery of it. Stop going back to that. When you did the stupid vignette of you in a yacht and all this crap, we don't buy your sappy, hurt my knee, I'm coming back, and oh, Dayton, I'm going to be she is all over the place. I don't know who she is. I don't know who she thinks she is. I don't know what she's trying to portray. Mm-hmm. I just think it's bad. And I just don't think this is what, it's just bad for me. I just laughed when I saw her walk out, and then her and Jade, they're building something, I guess maybe with her and Jade, maybe. But
for sure they're planting seeds. Obviously they're planting seeds for that. That was not done by accident. They want people to start imagining that match. Yeah,
I don't know. Charlotte's character just doesn't do anything for me, and it's been bad for a while.
The intent they want is for you to not they want you to think Charlotte's a big star, that she has a big ego, and that she's super thin-skinned, but she's also great in the ring, not star rating, but in the canon narrative of the story, that she is super successful. And so she came out there, and she was going to be a sore loser with a big ego and a thin skin. Bang, bang, bang. That's her character. She's a queen with a big ego and a thin skin who has a lot of success, but when she loses, she's a bad sport. They hit those notes. So that's why it's like, what's embarrassing about it? Because what do you want them to do with her otherwise, other than elicit the reaction they're getting from you, which is what they're seeking? I don't like her. She's annoying. She's full of herself. You're reacting the way that they would want a viewer to react to her. So it's successful.
Okay. I mean, that's what they want, but it doesn't make it good. It's what they want, but
so do you want her off television, or do you want her as a babyface, or do you want her as a different type of heel? That's kind of what I'm.
Maybe a different type of heel. Maybe, I guess, is where I would go, because obviously babyface is not going to work. They're not behind her. So.
Yeah, I ask it somewhat facetiously. Yeah, good luck with that. Although I do think if Ashley just showed up and it dropped some of this stuff, and they, she was on a journey to dropping the queen thing and all that, and. Like, I'm done. I'm outgrowing it. It's kind of like Randy. I was this way, but now I'm not. I grew up. But the thing is I think people feel this is genuinely who Charlotte is now. That she is a big ego, thin-skinned, insecure, obsessed, almost a broken person who can barely hold it together on promos. And they're seizing that moment because she is so arrogant and she is a celebrity. They're not feeling for her as a real person who probably, I mean, it comes across like a few weeks ago, Todd Martin on the Fix, a VIP podcast, just said, maybe he's like, this is just his observation from a distance. Yeah. Maybe someone needs to like make sure she's okay. You know, like, I mean, is she okay? And I mean, I've been hearing for years, like people are like, God, there's a lot going on with Charlotte, and it just something's not right. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm interrogating you because I kind of want to refine, like, what do you do with Charlotte if you're WWE? Because tonight they wanted her to be an arrogant, thin-skinned, sore loser who stomped out of the ring, and they wanted people to react like you did. But you're saying you think she can be more and part of a segment that doesn't make you wish you didn't watch it.
Yeah, because I mean, thin skin, I could see it, you know, obviously heel getting thin skin, and like they're obviously mad they lost. They're pissed off. They want, you know, revenge in a certain way. And if they don't, like, there's got to be some multi-layer thing that they can do. But my thing is, I don't believe Charlotte a lot of times in the role that they're trying to make her play. So it's like, you know, I
believe her now. I believe this is her.
Yeah,
I do. I mean, I think this is authentically Charlotte. She walks out. She goes, I got to look, and she looks the part. She put the work in. You know, her outfit, her demeanor. I mean, she walks out and she looks like a star. But you know, I shouldn't say you know, but your sense as a viewer is that's overcompensation for her insecurities, and she feels pressure to stay on top. But there's this next generation of people coming up trying to knock her down, and she's going to talk herself and try to talk everyone into thinking she's still the greatest. She put that photo up of Tiffany, who didn't look like a winner. That's all she can cling to. When the fans boo, she, you know, sort of, you know, shows emotional vulnerability, going, you know, why are you booing me? You know, what did I do? You know, tell me, you know, why you treat me this way. And she touts she had the greatest match in women's match in WrestleMania history. But then she also, you know, tripped over her words and when she was talking, and she said she was out nearly 2 years with a career-ending knee injury. Well, it's not career-ending knee injury because you're back and you're wrestling. You could say what people thought would be a career-ending knee injury. Her syntax and smoothness isn't good, and I think that shows that she's trying hard, but there's still something about her as a performer that just doesn't. It feels authentic, but it feels like she's a little broken and not smooth in what she's trying to do, and it's awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah. To a degree to watch her because you can see she's trying so hard to build up a streak of not coming across that way. But then she's my analysis of it, my advice would be, and I don't know for sure. I mean, I don't have like a high confidence in this, but my first inclination is to say the way to get past seeming like she's about to fall apart in front of our very eyes is to stop reading any feedback online. Disconnect entirely from any feedback. 100%. Find 2 or 3 people she trusts backstage. Say, tell me, I'll trust you if you think I'm doing well. I want to hear the truth if you think there's something I can do better. And if there's a way to be better, how do I get better? And just focus on that for the next year. I'd say this about almost everybody in life, in any walk of life, period. Stay off social media. I think there's so many more things to do with our time on planet Earth than to feel a responsibility to like and be liked and get thumbs up and stars and all that. I just, but people don't want to hear me preach about that, but I really, really, really try to limit. I think there's, I think 8 minutes a day of social media is sort of my limit.
I don't care. Even if I look at it, I don't care. I mean, you're not going to sway me by your opinion just because you have an opinion on social media. I mean, I don't care.
Well, but people aren't people shouldn't go to social media for opinions. That's why I'm like, when I listen to podcasts, I'm like, oh, there's people on social media saying this, and then they're saying this. I'm like,
right.
Why would I want to listen to somebody whose agenda is driven by what some rando says on social media, or some guy who picked up a following on social media by being snarky and then has followers and gets off on that? I don't think that's. I want to read well-written articles, or I want to hear well-written statements and commentary on podcasts. I just, like, when I hear someone talking on a podcast, like, oh, there's all these people saying this and then that. It's like, why do I care? Why do I care what a bunch of rant? I know people have opinions, but if I don't know who they are and what backs them up and what their credentials are, and if they haven't built up any kind of respect from me that I care about their opinion, I don't want people whose opinions I care about to be driven by responding to people who I don't know and I don't care about. So I feel that way, and I think Charlotte should feel that way. It's such a weird loop that your self-esteem and self-worth is based on a bunch of random people who are disingenuously and sometimes maliciously trying to get a reaction out of you. Why would you let them control you? Just unplug from it. Pick out what is healthy on social media, spend 8 minutes a day on it, and then unplug until the next day. And make friends. And like, there's a game store near my house, and I just walked my dog past it, and there's all these people who do not look like they're like also spending half the time at the gym playing pickup basketball. I would not say they look like those people. They look like they like to sit and play games, and they are having the time of their lives interacting with each other in person, with a passion. And then you go to the health club, and there's people playing pickup basketball who are 12 years past their high school glory years, and they're having a blast. And there's people out at the park walking their dog or throwing a frisbee, or reading a book in the sunshine, a hard copy book without constant distractions and validations of your day. Those are the people who are winning at life. And I think Charlotte, to go full circle on this, would win by disconnecting from all that and finding a few trusted people and listening to them. And anyway, enough said on that.
And I want the best for her because she is a big time star, like you said. She has that aura about her, so I want her to feed off of that and just kind of go with it. But going back to Jade, I said in the chat earlier, I think Jade Nia was a good match. I think it was a good match. I think Jade's gotten better.
I
in the
disagreed.
ring.
Yeah, I disagreed with David on that. Yep.
But again, like you said, and we'll keep harping on it till the brink of time. I just think Naomi's coming out to hurt Tiffany, which has, it's a number one contenders match. Your goal is to try to get a title shot, right? So why, if Naomi's attacking somebody outside the ring, why would you care about that? I know it's Naomi and her, but she beat Naomi. She should be past that at this point. Why would you worry about that and then lose to Nia by a distraction? It makes her look dumb. It just makes her look the words you've used many, many times. I don't understand why Paul thinks that's good booking strategy. And he'll just say, well, it's Naomi and she doesn't like Naomi and she's had an issue with Naomi. But she was outside the ring. She never came in the ring. She never did anything like that. Why are you focused on that when you're trying to get a title shot? It just doesn't make sense. And I don't get it.
Yeah.
Why he goes back to it.
Yeah, I thought the symbolism of Jade, and I don't think it was a good look. It was kind of a Draymond Green look, like throwing the water bottle at the truck of Naomi. It's like property damage and a petulant immaturity that I don't think a good look for Jade. But I think having a seed planted that Jade is still harboring feelings where if she just sees an image of her, she got to throw a water bottle at her. Then having that also distract her later, it set up a believable scenario, even if I disagree it was a good look for Jade, that she would be bothered by her being there. And Alexa Bliss kind of saying to Charlotte, "Oh, let's chat." Like they're planting seeds. Like there's a comment in the chat. Standard Deviation said there's that 5-second cliffhanger with Alexa Bliss with a small time investment that delivers a large return from intrigue. These are the small moments that WWE does really well that AEW almost never does. So yeah, but it doesn't mean they're all created equal and they all work. But I like the idea that you're planting seeds for things in the future, whether it's within the same show, like Jade seeing Naomi and throwing the water bottle, or Alexa Bliss and wondering what do we need to chat about. Then that'll pay off at a later time.
Yeah, and I want Alexa. I'm excited. She's been back recently. I just want her to do a different wardrobe, like get back to kind of not what you were when you first got on the main roster. Because that was a good character, but I just the darkness with the doll, just it's just not what I love, and I'd like to see her kind of maneuver that character in a different way. As a face is good because I think she's very likable, but I'm not digging so far what they've done with her coming back.
Yeah, well, I think there's an excitement for seeing what Alexa Bliss does, and now it's time for WWE to deliver on it. But they've treated her like a star, and I think people care what she does next. I think they'll be intrigued with the Charlotte thing. Maybe that's going to be a transitional moment for Charlotte.
That could be. Alexa's good to play off of, so that could work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it was a good show leading to. And I'll say real quick about the card is, I think Lyra has to win tomorrow. I just don't think you could build her up just to you've got something good with her. Her promos, you've seen there's potential there. I would have her beat Becky. That could help her a lot. Becky does not need to beat Lyra at this point. Like, Becky's Teflon. She's fine. She's the man. She's one of the biggest stars the women have had. So I just don't understand why Lyra wouldn't win. But that's just me. I hope Lyra wins. But if Becky wins, that's fine. She's Becky. And Lyra hopefully will be okay. But I just think Lyra should keep the title for a little bit and kind of build on it.
Yeah. Fan Bless says, not to speak for Sean, but I don't really want to see Charlotte lose matches because of any of this. It's uncomfortable without a clear payoff. Derek Mitchell says, Charlotte's promo reminds me of Batiste's promo during his last full-time run in 2009-2010 when he turned heel and just lost to John Cena and I quit match and threw a tantrum before he quit. Yeah, I can see that. Jason D from Australia, who called earlier, said Charlotte was most likable when she was standing up for Shotzi a couple years ago. She needs to tap into her big sister. I'm there for you energy. It can be done. So that's interesting. JC Scooby said Charlotte might be better off to get or asked to be released by WWE and find who she is in another promotion or indies. It's not going to happen. I mean, she's not going to go work for a fraction of what she makes in WWE. I think it can be figured out internally. If she was younger, I mean, I think there's times when that makes sense for certain wrestlers, but it's not like WWE has completely lost. Well, I don't think they've completely lost faith in her based on what they're doing. I just don't think they're doing a good job booking her, but I don't think it's a sign of a lack of faith in her or belief in her. I think there's a lot of things WWE's not doing well right now, booking wise. I think Charlotte's a challenge, more of a challenge than some, but I'm not crazy about Aleister Black winning with a roll up. And no. I mean, I'm not crazy about the tag team division. I'm not crazy about the finishes. I don't know. I mean, there's, people who, when I think they're doing things really well, I talk about it, and it doesn't make me a WWE homer. It means I'm just giving my honest opinion. And right now I'm not a anti-WWE guy. I don't think they're in as good of a spot. And I think it's on Levesque and, his leadership and his vision right now.
Yep, it was fun to be on with Brian and Josh, getting to talk Collision last night. That was fun. I hope people listen to that. And it's always fun being on with you, Wade. Go VIP, everyone.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yep, see you.
All right, cool. Take care. All right. So a couple other notes here before we go. I wanted to check the inbox. Okay, no, there's nothing there that we haven't covered. Like I said, I wanted to wrap up at the 90-minute mark, and we're well past that. I will actually, for VIP members, be reporting on SmackDown start to finish. I always record that for VIP members after we finish up this show. So I'm going to go do that and cover the things we didn't cover in this show, and encourage you to be a VIP member. And then you can hear what I have to say. I always do a start to finish rundown of shows for VIP members on Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. So if you don't watch the shows, or you half watch them, or you speed through them, you want to hear my thoughts, but also get a 20-minute, give or take, just rapid fire recap of what happened. That's the way to go. PWTorch.com/govip for full VIP membership details and all the options, or you can just search PWTorch VIP in Patreon or Spotify and get a trial. Yes, there will be a Wrestling Night in America tomorrow night after Backlash with Greg Parks hosting, so join us for that. And while I'm at it, of course, if you're still with us, I appreciate that, and it would be a good time to like this show, comment below, and if you haven't yet, please, for sure, subscribe to our channel. To get the PW or the Wrestling Night in America post pay-per-view show that is on the PW Torch Daily Cast lineup, search PW Torch in your podcast app to subscribe to that. If you want to catch up on everything that happens on SmackDown or any of the TV shows out there, Impact, Evolve, AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, and the PLEs, etc., live Japan coverage too, we've got you covered. We are the headquarters for thorough and sometimes redundant, not in a bad way, but like more than one report on shows, so we get more than one opinion and take an analysis on things. Go to pwtorch.com, go to the TV report section, and read what I and our team have to say about these shows, and just catch up on what you're missing. It might help you decide how to spend your limited time reading or watching wrestling shows. And you can always email me at wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. That's wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, I talk about our team of contributors. If you want to be a contributor, let me know. kellerwade@gmail.com is the email if you want to join our team. We've got a great team of volunteer contributors who help round out our coverage. It's more than a one-person job to cover everything that happens in wrestling, and we like a variety of opinions. That's been the Torch brand from the very beginning, a wide array of opinions and voices. We welcome disagreements. We welcome different perspectives. We welcome people who watch wrestling for different reasons. And I think that comes through with our callers and our chat and our emails and our co-hosts and our hosts. We all love wrestling, but we have different things that appeal to us the most. Sometimes it's broad, sometimes it's narrow. Some people only will watch New Japan. Other people will only watch WWE. Others watch a lot of different things, and depending on what product is hot or which wrestlers or wrestler they like most is why they watch. But we cover it all. And you can be part of that. If you have a passion for writing and for a particular area of pro wrestling, drop me a line. You can find out the open spots in the staff contact page. There's a link above our logo on our website, or in the sidebar on mobile in the 3 lines where you drop down to the menu. You can go to the Contact Us staff page, and you'll see the open spots, the current open spots. So drop me a line. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will talk with you. On the VIP side of things, I'll be hosting the roundtable after Backlash. Todd Martin and Rich Fan joining me, so that'll be VIP exclusives. If you want my take on Backlash within an hour or so after it ends, that'll be on the VIP feed. But while you're waiting, watch Greg Parks host Wrestling Night in America live tomorrow night after Backlash and give the show a call. I will have my live coverage of the event on PWTorch.com as the show progresses. So check out my report if you're watching it live for my opinion and my take on things. Or if you're not watching it and you want to know is it worth watching, that's another route to go too. All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks to everybody who joined me on the show, everyone in the chat, and we'll talk to you next time.